In this video, I will show you 2 kinds of bone tissue and 3 kinds of muscle tissue. You will use these pictures to do your histology drawings. The first one you see here is compact bone. This is the type of bone tissue found on the outside of bone. You'll notice it's made up of structures called osteons. Osteons are formed from concentric rings of bone. Each concentric ring we call a lamella. In between the lamella, I want you to find the osteocytes. These cells are inside of spaces we call lacuna. And they're able to get information from one to the next through canaliculi. So there's little canals in this hard matrix, and those canals allow for transport of substances. And finally, you have a central canal in the middle of the osteon. The central canal is where blood vessels and nerves travel through to bring nutrients to the bone. The second type of bone tissue is spongy or cancellous bone. The difference you can see here is, you'll notice, adipose tissue, and that is found between these plates of bone, which we call trabecula. Now, when you look at this type of bone tissue, you shouldn't get it mixed up with compact bone because of the adipose and also the red bone marrow you can see between the adipose. You see osteocytes, and in between those osteocytes, the lighter purple is matrix. So the matrix, or extracellular matrix, is made up of fibers, which are collagen fibers, and also a hardened inorganic matrix, which we call hydroxyapatite. All your labeling on this one will be adipose tissue, trabecula, red bone marrow, and you want to label the little dots you see here, which are the osteocytes. The first type of muscle tissue I want you to draw is skeletal muscle. This is a cross-sectional view of skeletal muscle, which means it's cut in transverse section. And you'll notice there are nuclei within the cells and surrounded by a type of connective tissue called the endomysium. The endomysium surrounds every skeletal muscle cell. You also see a thicker connective tissue called paramecium. Paramecium wraps around bundles of cell fibers. Here's another slide of skeletal muscle, this time in longitudinal section. So you're looking at the cells long ways, and notice there are striations you can see. Striations tell us this type of muscle tissue has microscopic structures we call sarcomeres. And sarcomeres are what you really are kind of seeing here. You'll learn about that more with muscle physiology. Around each individual muscle cell, you do see the connective tissue called the endomysium, and you can also see several nuclei that are peripherally located. They're located toward the outside of the cell, but they still are under the cell membrane. Cardiac muscle is an involuntary type of muscle tissue. You don't consciously control it. One structure I want you to look for in cardiac muscle are these darker lines we call intercalated discs. And you'll notice an intercalated disc here and here. So between those two is a cell, and this is a cardiac muscle cell, would be found in the heart. Now, if you look closely, you'll see on some of these a nucleus centrally located in the cell. So cardiac muscle has one nucleus, basically, per cell, and it is striated. You might notice striations better here, but these small stripes you can see. So there are also sarcomeres inside of cardiac muscle. The third type of muscle tissue I want you to know is smooth muscle. And you'll notice there's two different layers here, a longitudinal section and a cross-sectional view. The longitudinal section you know you're looking at because the nuclei also look longer. And the cross-sectional view, these purple nuclei, look round. So you want to label the nuclei and you want to tell me which part is longitudinal and which part is a cross-sectional view. The last slide, you're not drawing this one, but I want you to look at it, has decalcified bone. And you might recognize this as compact bone because you can see the central canals or the Haversian canal, same thing. And you don't see any certain separate lamella. But you can still see osteocytes. The main thing I want you to see here is the connective tissue around the outside of the bone. And this is called the periosteum. Periosteum meaning to go around, peri, the bone, osteo. And so that's the completion of what you want to look at for your bone and muscle tissue slides.